Hi, welcome back to our discussion of common ground. This is part 2. In the previous video, we talked about reason, integrity, and rational presuppositionalism as pieces for common ground for difficult conversations. Now we want to talk about the last piece, and that's the principle of clarity. The principle of clarity is going to pull all of this together, and it's kind of exciting, I think. So let's read through it together. Reason, which we talked about, the laws of thought. Integrity, having consistency in our thoughts, words, and deeds. And the rational presuppositional method, where we deal with more basic issues prior to less basic issues, requires the principle of clarity. This is surprising, right? Some things are clear to reason. That's what the principle of clarity says. Some things are clear to reason, which means all people who are using reason can know them. Isn't that exciting? This is hopeful for us. All right, so let's see what this means specifically. There are 3 pieces to this. The principle of clarity states that 1, some things are clear. We'll talk about that. The basic things are clear. Remember, we're talking about basic, more basic, less basic. So the more basic is clear. And the basic things are about God, humans, good, and evil. What? Let's look at it. And those things are clear. Some things are clear. Well, let's think about this. Why would we say that? How could we prove that? Well, look at the contradiction. The opposite is nothing is clear. So it is clear that the contradiction of some things are clear is nothing is clear. So a contradiction is where we have A and non-A. Some things are clear, nothing is clear. Okay? We're not saying all things are clear and some things are not clear. Some things are clear. Nothing is clear. Okay? So think about nothing is clear. If nothing is clear, then no distinction is meaningful. No distinction like A and non-A, human and non-human, rock and non-rock, being and non-being. And that's an absurdity, because as soon as we identify something, we know the non-something. As soon as we identify A, we know non-A. That's a clear distinction. It comes with being a thinker. If no meaning is possible, this is called nihilism, nothingism, then thought and talk must be given up. Why? Because thoughts are about things, and things are what they are. And this is self-referentially absurd to say meaning is not possible. I'm using meaningful words right now. So if you want to say meaning is not possible, you should be silent and don't act. Remember integrity? If you say there is no meaning to anything, nothing is clear, no distinction is clear, then words that express ideas and ideas that grasp things don't mean anything. So stop using words. We can't, though. We're thinkers and we're talkers. So it must be the case that some things are clear. If any word has meaning, some things are clear. And the most basic thing that's clear is the distinction between A and non-A. Point 2, the basic things are clear. Now remember the basic things: epistemology, metaphysics, ethics. The basic things are clear. So we're saying those things in philosophy are clear. Thinking is presuppositional. We think of the less basic in light of the more basic. If basic things are not clear, and they are because we just went over the first part where A is clear, then nothing is clear. So if the laws of thought are not clear, and that's the most basic, remember we said reason, meaning, truth, understanding, wisdom. If reason isn't clear, the laws of thought, then none of it's clear. So if basic things are not clear, then nothing is clear, which is necessarily false by reductio. We said that's impossible that nothing is clear. So some things are clear, therefore the basic things are clear, which means the basic things in epistemology, reason, is where we start. Reason, A is A, is the cornerstone of the house, and we start building from that. The basic things are clear. Now, we also talked about basic beliefs, our presupposition, the basic things about God, whether God exists or not, God or non-God. That distinction is clear. Humans, what a human is and a non-human is, that distinction is clear. What is good for humans and what is non-good for humans is clear, and non-good we'll call evil. And these things are clear to reason. So, the basic things are about metaphysics, the existence or non-existence of God, human nature, about ethics, good and non-good or evil, and reason as the laws of thought is the most basic. Therefore, the basic things are clear to reason, epistemology. Now, notice we didn't get to what is clear about God and human nature and good and evil. We just got that they're clear. And common ground is asking us to agree that those things are clear, and if they are clear, they are knowable to us through reason. Now that's important because the rest of our discussion is going to be about metaphysics, does God exist or not? Ethics, what is the good for human beings and what is not good for human beings? And if we can't know about those things, then we can't really have a class about it, right? All we can do is talk about what other people thought. But how did those other people come up with those ideas? It wasn't always the case that human beings were as skeptical as we are today about ethics. We happen to be living in a skeptical period, and skepticism is the belief that nothing is clear to reason. Now that can't be held consistently. So let's talk about the opposite of these things. The opposite of reason is skepticism. Nothing is clear to reason. We can't use reason to know reality, to know human beings, to know what is good for humans. So what would we do instead? We'd probably have to do psychology instead, or animal studies somehow. Integrity, if we're living in an age of skepticism that says nothing is clear to reason, then how do you live consistently with that? We can't really know. How do you live your life? How do you make choices? It's clear that we make choices, and we make choices based on our beliefs. So we do have them. And even if we say we really can't know, we do assume certain things. And so we should back up and say, why did I assume that? And can I know it? So skepticism, we really can't know. And if we say that, we should live that. And it's impossible to live that. Rational presuppositionalism, sometimes we don't recognize a method for knowing, and that's why we get stuck in skepticism. No one ever introduced us to reason and how we could know things by reason, and so we don't recognize there is a method for breaking things down into its more basic component. This is critical thinking. This is the heart of critical thinking. And perhaps because we live in this age of skepticism, we just assume we can't. Nothing's clear to reason. But once we are introduced to this now, that if we say nothing is clear, then that just shuts down all thinking and all talking. Then we should probably re-examine that assumption, right? So we live in an age of skepticism. It hasn't always been like this in the history of philosophy, but this is where we are now, and a way to address skepticism is through these 4 pieces of common ground. And we can talk more about how to address skepticism when we look at the reason handout. I think I'll pause now, and I hope if you have any questions, you'll send them to me, and we can discuss them more. Thanks, and have a great day.